All right, let's continue with the book tour. The first are three maps on the SAS programming language. SAS Enterprise Guide. This is querying and reporting, so it's basically a course, a written printed course. Then we have SAS Enterprise Guide, Advanced Tasking Querying, and then we have accessing SAS data from Microsoft Object Applications. So this is not any math, it's not any physics, this is about the program language SAS, which I need to know for my job, and which is actually very much used in statistics environments. It's a horrible programming language. I hate it. I hate programming in it. It makes me angry every time I need to program in it. But yeah, it's a very old programming language, so it's basically a lot of legacy code that people still have that works on it. I have to say though that a lot of procedures and functions in SAS are very efficient. They're programmed exceedingly well because there are a lot of very good people working on it. But the language itself, the way of coding itself is annoying, very annoying. All right, let's continue. This is a book that Krim will know. Here we have Strogatz, Nonlinear Dynamics and Chaos. Well, it says it's a book on chaos theory, a very, very good book, a very interesting book. It has a lot of applications in chaos theory and on flow theory. I have to say this is not my favorite book on the topic. My favorite book is actually Aligot, Chaos, which I like very much. I'm like this book is. I know a lot of people like it, and whenever you ask people online about their favorite books, well-written books, they always list this one, and I have to admit it's a very well-written book. For some reason, it didn't vibe with me. I can't explain why. It just didn't vibe with me. I don't know if I can explain it better, but it's definitely something worth looking into. It's very interesting to a lot of people. But yeah, I think he just talks too much and not really in a way that interests me, to be honest. I'm sorry I can't give any better explanation than that, but yeah, it's this is a Romeo and Juliet example where they give differential equations for love, basically. I think the 3 blue 1 brown guy knew this and basically based his video on that. It's a very cute example. So I mean, yeah, you do learn a lot from this book. That's for sure. All right, next one. I have here Artin's geometric algebra. You might think this is for Krim, but this is not actually for Krim, because this is not geometric algebra in the sense that it's now known as the field geometric algebra. This is geometric algebra, is basically algebra applied to geometry. And with algebra, I mean linear algebra and group theory. It does actually have Clifford algebras too, but yeah, not that much. It does affine predictive geometry basically and orthogonal geometry. So there's all of these basic different geometries, and it does things like it constructs the fields. It constructs a field out of a geometry. It constructs certain groups out of a geometry. It's a very mathematical book, very rigorous book. I would definitely recommend this if you are into this kind of stuff, like affine and predictive geometry done synthetically and also kind of algebraically, but still not algebraic geometry. Then this would seem like a good book. Honestly, I did not get too much out of this. Artin has a kind of a weird style, so not that much of a fan, but I know many people do like it. Here we have another Coxeter book, Introduction to Geometry. which is another book on Euclidean geometry and projective geometry and the like. So he does polygons, he does similarity, crystallography. So there's a lot of very cute topics in here on very, very classical kind of geometry. But not only classical kind of geometry, but he also does things like differential geometry of curves and surfaces. So it's basically a book that would give you some kind of taste of what geometry is all about and all the different kinds of geometry. It's a very classical book. It's a very classical style. What do I mean with modern style? A modern style would be like a book with a lot of notations, a lot of algebra, a lot of involvement of groups and abstract algebra. It might have it a little bit, but not too much. It's very much classical. So, and this is why this kind of content is not really taught anymore in classes, and especially not in this way, which I think is sad because it's absolutely beautiful sometimes. But yeah, this kind of geometry is basically non-existent anymore. People have abandoned it altogether to do things this way. But yeah, I like it. I like this kind of geometry. I really like this kind of geometry. I really like this kind of stuff. This old-fashioned 19th century geometry, I think, is honestly way more beautiful than the geometry we have today. With all these abstract structures and stuff. I like manifolds. I like differential geometry. I like schemes, but this is just exquisite. There's nothing going beyond this in terms of geometry. Another book is this one by Kunal, Differential Geometry of Curves, Surfaces, and Manifolds, which is a replacement of Do Carmo. Is a book on curves and surfaces. Where is the table of contents? As you see, there's a lot of stuff that's also in Do Carmo. Why I like and dislike this book. I dislike this book because for many people it is very advanced. It is too advanced. If you're new to mathematics, like if you're an undergrad, this book is probably too advanced and too abstract for you. You already need to be acquainted to many things before you can get the most out of this book. But the book is really beautiful. I really like this book. As you can see in the table of contents, he has a lot of things that books like Do Carmo do not have. For example, here we see 2E. He's working with Minkowski space, which is very important from a physical point of view. It has here Einstein spaces, which are Einstein field equations, which are also very important, and which basically motivate a lot of theory we have today. Then the reason I bought this book in the first place is because of the Frenet equations, and the Frenet equations are a local basis to any curve. And this is done in any differential geometry book of curves and surfaces. It's done in Do Carmo. It's basically done in any such book. But it's only done in 3D. And here we see the n-dimensional version of it. And it is basically the only book that I know of that really has this version, the n-dimensional version of it, and the n curvatures of it. I was so intrigued by this that I bought this book, and I didn't regret buying this book at all. It has a lot of very beautiful stuff that you won't find anywhere else, basically. But it is maybe a bit more abstract, and it requires a bit more maturity than the usual book on the topic. Honestly, I like it more than Do Carmo, but again, Do Carmo is perhaps more introductory, despite also being very difficult, of course. Here we come to a book that I like. It's the Handbook of Philosophical Logic. When I was doing statistics masters, we had to choose an ethical course. And the ethical course could be anything in the philosophy department, and I took philosophical logic. Maybe a cop out, but that's what it is. And I really liked it. It talked about different kinds of logics and how to interpret logic philosophically. And I loved that. I loved that very much. I still love it. It's still one of my favorite topics, all due to that course, which has, by the way, an excellent teacher, which really makes me love it. So I discovered this handbook, and it's basically many volumes, many volumes. And I did not manage to buy all the volumes because they're very expensive. But I'm very interested in it. If I ever win $1 million, I would definitely get all the volumes. And it basically talks about all kinds of philosophical logic. So we see here predicate logic and first order and second order logic. You see decision theory, logic programming, and it's very interesting stuff. This is the first volume. I also have a little bit later volumes. I will admit this is not the most interesting volume, but there are definitely more interesting volumes out there. Even though the book is called Philosophical Logic, and which makes it seem that it would be interesting for philosophers, it really isn't. It requires a lot of mathematics. I am not sure even an undergrad in mathematics can handle this book. You see lambda calculus used, for example. I see ordinals before. I see recursion. So it's pretty difficult. But it's very much a perspective that you will not see in the typical mathematical logic book. Here we come to a book that should be one of my favorites, but it actually isn't. It's projective and Cayley-Klein geometries. Cayley-Klein geometries is one of my secret passions. Cayley-Klein, the Klein geometry program, basically classified all kinds of geometries based on the groups. And a Cayley-Klein geometry is basically a subgeometry of projective geometry. It includes, for example, Euclidean geometry, and hyperbolic geometry, and spherical geometry, but also, for example, special relativity. That is also a kind of geometry. And there's not many books about this. You can Google books about Cayley-Klein geometries, and you cannot find much books about this. It's a very niche topic, and all the books you can find are basically either in another language or 100 years old. You do not find many modern books talking about this. It's a shame. It's absolutely a shame. It's one of those topics that I wish was way more popular than it is. But I bought this book because I wanted to learn about them in depth. But I did not like the book. In fact, I don't like any of the books on the topic. As you can see from the table of contents, it seems fine. So it starts with projective geometry. Then there's all the Cayley-Klein geometries, like spherical, elliptical, hyperbolical, the Möbius geometry, symplectic geometry. Even it goes even beyond that. So what's the problem with this book? The problem with this book is honestly that it's too modern. It has a lot of abstract algebra notations. It has a lot of it does abstract algebra and linear algebra in n dimensions, and you know that shouldn't be a problem, but it is, because it completely obscures the geometric viewpoint. There's not a single figure in this, or not many figures in this text. Like there's this linear algebra, there's matrices, but yeah, it's all very dry and very badly done. Yeah, I don't know. It's I maybe one time I really need to start putting myself to it and actually reading this book in order to really get because there's a lot of gems in there that I don't find anywhere else. There's a lot of gems in there, but I just can't get through it. It's just so boring. Like, actually, I cannot. Yeah, it just doesn't do it for me. Too bad, because I really want a good book on the topic. So this book is, I don't regret buying it, but this book is basically my biggest regret, in the sense that I really wish there was something out there that did it.